Welcome to the channel where all you gotta do is tear down this S85 V10. So a while back I ventured on a project to put a V10 BMW motor in a 68 Mustang. So I acquired a bunch of pieces, one of which was an entire M6 2008. I got it on Copart. It wasn't wrecked, which is usually my go-to, because you know the engine's good when it's wrecked, but S85s are probably different. They could be wrecked and blown up at the same time. So this particular vehicle was found online doing some tire shredding videos, so might have been abused a little bit, but it was offered with part of the engine taken apart, so the throttle actuators were gone, the radiator fan stuff was gone, so I'm not sure what exactly happened to it, but this entire bank of cylinders, let's see if I can, there we go. I don't know if you can see down there, but there's a giant puddle of oil in this whole bank, which I'm not sure how you break a motor and do that to all the cylinders. So I have a feeling when they took the plenums off of this thing, they tipped it that away, and there's coarse oil as always in the plenum, so I'm going with that. Doesn't really matter, so I'm gonna have to go through this entire thing anyway, but I did notice there was a lot of well, oil that looked like that in the header on this side only, and then after I took all the oil giblets off, you can see there's some, I don't know, different colored fluids. That should be oil in there. But we'll find out. We'll take it apart and take a look at it. I have a shelf over here to add all my bits to, but one thing I did notice about this vehicle is they really loved hoses. And the more complicated the hose, the better. Like this power steering contraption hose, it just defies logic. I mean, I just, yeah, whatever. So we're gonna clean all that up when we reinstall this. This is kind of a typical S85 hose, right? You start there with a banjo fitting, squiggly hose, connector, squiggly plastic hose, another connector, another squiggly hose, another connector, another squiggly plastic hose, another connector, and then the thing where it's going to. Like, why couldn't that have been one hose? Like, banjo fitting, hose, and fitting on that end. This entire contraption of a engine install is very similar, right? Like, what were they thinking? They got a throttle actuator for this side, or idle air motor for this side, idle air motor for this side, and then they got hoses going to both of them, and then a purge canister on this side, purge canister on this side, which is fine if you have two purge canisters, but they're just leading into one anyway. So I really, yeah, anyway, lots of expensive stuff, which is really great about this motor, but I do have to clean up all these hoses and make that more appropriate for a 68 Mustang Fastback. So anyway, we'll start getting this thing taken apart and see what's wrong with it, if anything. Alright, so first things first, let's get these oil covers off of here. Maybe I should start removing some hoses, but So this thing has no spark plugs in it. Shut it up that way. And has a blue rag because it only has 9 coils. Ooh, that's stuck pretty good. Well, we'll fight that later. Maybe shoot it with some WD-40 or something and let it think about what it's done. Oh, it's really tight. Okay, so 0 for 1 right now, I'd say. Maybe we can pull some of these hoses off of here. Get a better look at what I'm doing here. They got these guys nestled in pretty good. Matter of fact, I think they went out of their way to make these weird contraption form factor so that they could use the same one on both sides. I'm planning on using one for both sides, so I won't be using these. Try to decomplexify this German engineering. By the way, you can't get the starter out with these guys in here, so. Contraption freed. Okay, so now that the idler motors are removed, I can actually get the starter out. It's a cute little starter. Looks workable. You gotta see this clusterfuck over here. So the fuel rail, this is the fuel inlet, boop, goes into here, and then there's a crossover to get to this side. And then this is a coolant bracket, coolant manifold that goes from this side to this side. And then this is mounted to it, but it's sandwiched underneath this guy. So what they've done is put little slots in there, which is clever, except for yeah, that. Okay. Das Germans! Anyway, we'll get her off. Maybe I just take this water crossover off of there. Because you know when you're taking the fuel rails off in the vehicle, it's nothing more fun than taking this coolant manifold off as well. There used to be 2 gaskets. Look at that thing. That does not look cheap. A cute little multi-layer steel gasket for that. There are 2 of them, but the other one seems to be escaping me. Okay, so now the fuel rail is loose. I think I'll get this lifting strap thingy out of the way. Throttle actuators. Yeah, funny story about that. So when I was taking the exhaust manifolds off, which are quite an engineering feat, I will say, Somebody decided that they had to have direct access with a straight extension to torque those down, which totally compromised the design of the header. I understand why they did it for manufacturing reasons. However, these guys, not a single one can you access. Not a single, none. There we go. Things with hoses on there. This is one of my favorite hoses right here. There's another one that goes to the other side because this has dual radiators set up on it. Because you know, why would you cool the left bank with the same radiator as the right bank? Pedestrian. So pedestrian that is. If you don't know what I'm talking about, this particular engine has an inlet and outlet here and here and here and here. And the radiator is, the top half of the radiator cools one bank and the bottom half of the radiator cools another bank. So there's 4 radiator hoses, and undoubtedly it's heavier and has more coolant in it than it could. But there's got to be a reason they did it. I don't know what it is. Another one of those things that I'll probably fix and post. This has just got some O-rings in here. They're happy where they're living right now. Actually, it's actually quite an elegant design, I think. Giant thermostat. And then because this part and this part, there's a tolerance stack up on there. They have this little doodads, just a little piece of billet aluminum, and has an O-ring in each end. So if there's any misalignment between the bore of this and the bore of this, which is right, this bolts to the block, and this bolts to this head, which bolts to the block, and this bolts to this head, which bolts to this block. So the tolerance stack up on that would have to suck. So this was their solution. I've used this on some of my own designs. So I think I can take these guys off next. If you don't know about this, this is the high pressure Vanos line, which comes from the Vanos pump down yonder, which is inside the motor, and this is a flexible one. This is the one that fails a lot. Pretty sure you're supposed to drop that on the floor. Alright, so there it is. Sort of a bracket mater. Alright. Maybe we'll get that tensioner off of there. Finish up on that water pump. Quite the marvel. Alright, so this is apparently serves double duty as a washer and you can bar the engine over with this guy. Kind of cute little stamped part. It's not that light, but okay, I got my little friend here. Yeah, like butter. Oh, that doesn't weigh much. All right, this guy, super duper torquey thing. That thing is not light, in case you were wondering. Not light. Okay, so this ground strap. Apparently that's for the main solenoids to have a circuit. Alright. Looks nice and clean. Everything looks pretty tidy in here. That's about what it's all supposed to look like. No flat cams. Nothing. A little bit of, I would call that moisture, except for it's definitely antifreezy moisture. It's not, nothing's rusty, right? So there's just antifreeze sitting inside here, which is always good. That's what you want, pretty sure. Little plastic inserts. Alright, well, nothing horrific yet. Now you can see, that one's dry. That one's not dry. That one's pretty much full. That one's partially full. Oh, this one's problem. Yeah. See that? Alright, well, that one's missing a valve. Yeah. I think that might be leaving a mark. See what other carnage is. The sooner I know, the sooner I can start fixing on it. Let's get this Vanos crap off. Okay, so that's what I got. It's basically a L wrench that's made into an eye, I guess. They come in quite handy for situations like this. Here you can see what I'm doing. Let me get a better visual. So I already got this one out, but I need to get this one and this one out that hold the thing together. Okay, one Vanos actuator. Get this guy off. Okay, 1, 2, there's one more down here. Get. You're already supposed to do this. And this doesn't seem terrible. But if they would have put hex bolts on here, I could have just used a clicky wrench. Would have been off in no time. But they didn't. Second Vanos. I think I'm going to drain the oil out of it. See what that looks like. And then flip it over, pop the oil pan off. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a lot of coolant came out of there. Almost like a connecting rod went into the water jacket. Almost like. It doesn't smell that bad. It kind of smells like Pop-Tarts. We'll get these out of the way. Okay. Back from La Lunche. No idea if this was balanced. Roundy roundness. I guess we're gonna find out. Might be long enough for that one, but if it is, it's... Dang it. So this is not quite long enough to get those rear ones out, so I'm going to have to go sign something out. Okay, so this is what I came up with. I got this this little set here. These guys do not sponsor me at all, but really nice little micro socket wrench thingy with all kinds of little tips. One of the tips is Torx, which is the right size, and I just happen to have this extension, this guy. So, and then a 1/4 inch 6-point socket, and yeah, it might not be elegant, but whatever. not good. So that rod is twisted into a pretzel. And that rod seems to have been kerfuffled a bit. Piston squirter damaged. But all these cylinders look pretty happy. Yeah, I don't see any problems. Oh, that is a chunk of something. Okay, so I was kind of wondering where that piston went. That looks like not sure. Not sure some more. That's a pretty big nugget. Looks like it might be a piston. Oh yeah. There's a piston piece. There's a lot of unrecognizable stuff in here. This is a pretty big sump. It'll hold a lot of pistons. I think its capacity is like 9.5 pistons. Yeah. Oh. There's the wrist pin. Usual survivor. Anyway, this is just gonna make me madder and madder, but I knew what I was getting into. You buy something from Copart, you gotta assume it's gonna be garbage. That's the standard assumption. I was hoping the throttle actuators were fucked up and somebody tried to fix them. Oh, look at there. You could just weld that exhaust valve back to where it started life. I'll just put you right there on top of the other good part. This is not exactly what my plan was. It was worth anything, or worth doing anything with. I'm already committed to using this V10 in the Mustang project because a couple reasons. One, I already bought a Delta 880 ECU for that vehicle. That's number one. Number two, I already bought a 6-speed manual for it. So, probably going to want to use that. And everybody knows that once you swim halfway across the river, there's no going back. I kind of want to put maybe spray this down, get it clean, get all the grease off it, and then put an indicator on this. So apparently the way this works is when they put this together brand new, this has a coating on it, like a brandable coating, and so they just, in production line, they just slide this pump over until it touches and they'll lock it down. They're done. Unfortunately, if you have to take that apart and put it back together, there's a procedure in the manual where you check the backlash. And the way I've seen people on the internet do it is completely fucking wrong. So I want to clean this off and check the backlash and see if it's within factory specs. Just to verify that I'm not crazy. So that's the backlash right there. It's right around 2,000. Really close. So now that I have it documented in this video and in my brain, I can pull that pump off. Super slippery. There we go. So if you ever wondered what that double snappy thing noise is when you tighten up a bolt, there's friction between the threads and there's friction between the head. So when you loosen it, the first thing that happens is the head slips between the bottom of the bolt and whatever you're tightening it down to. And then it winds up the bolt and the threads actually slip. So you get those two distinct popping noises. One is friction under the head of the bolt and the second one is threads. And that's not me like stopping and starting again. Couldn't do it that consistently if I tried. There's your problem right there. Not so much there or there. There. So that's fucked up. I don't see any holes in anything. Like that would let the fluids to jump from one end to the other. It is a bit beat up. Not ideal. There's a lot of not ideal stuff in here. Yeah. Oh, look at that rod cap. It's busted into two pieces. I'm pretty sure that rod can't be reused. Well, these guys all look fine. Maybe I can build a V9. So that's exactly what you don't want. Exactly. These two are hanging on there though. Somehow. Looks like it was running really good just before it blew up. And then it blew up. Well, so much for hoping it was a head gasket problem. That looks perfectly fine to me. Dejection. If this was like a really expensive race head, it could totally be fixed. Like a little bit of welding, new valve job on it, totally could be fixed. And I was going to sleeve this block anyway. Yeah, I think that's where I think we may have breached Anyway, yeah, this block's junk. Quit dreaming about it. It's junk. So we'll get the other side tore apart, but I'm pretty sure we're not going to see anything exciting over here. But we'll take it apart anyway and come up with a formulated plan of, okay, what next? That's fucked up. Which makes it so the other head's ruined. Now this head's ruined. It's really weird. All the other cylinders, these are like beautiful. That one's completely fucked up. It's not looking good. That's what I'm talking about. Ugh. Alright, well, it's a good reason not to buy an S85 used. Alright, I don't know how good you can see that, but that's scuffed. This is kind of what I expected the motor to look like a few cylinders like that, which I sleeve it anyway, it doesn't matter. That's probably about as good as the S85 bore is going to look. That one's pretty nice. Yeah. Not terrible, actually, for an S85. That's not bad either. Pull it out of the way. Alright. Right on the subject. Okay, see how that connecting rod is bonked against one side of the piston? And it looks like it makes a left-hand turn and then straightens back out. Yeah, not supposed to do that. It's not supposed to touch there. That's always supposed to be clearance. See how that guy has clearance? Clearance. Oh, that one's got a lot of clearance. See, that one's straight in the popcorn fart. That one, not so good. Ay, ay, ay. butter. Don't understand. So, this one's going to be a little bit more effort, I think. So that bolt doesn't look like a bolt anymore. That one does, that one does. This one's kind of fucked up. But I might be able to just bang a socket over it and get her done. Let's do the easy ones first, which is, in theory, I don't really need to take this. This will come off with the crank, but I kind of want to see what that journal looks like. That's well and truly on there. Hard to believe, but I think that socket's part of the bolt now. And the guy is... Oh! I lost the rod, but the bearing and the journal look fine. Huh! Well, I'll be a piece of shit floating in a pickle barrel. I was not expecting that. I don't think the old beating the socket over it's gonna work on this guy. Got my doubts. I think I got that almost going. Should just bust now, right? Oh, of course not. Oh crap, steel is real. Ah, there we go. Alright, I'm not sure if that's gonna get it done. Sure made a mess, if nothing else. Clean it up here. Alright. Ooh, smells good in here now. It really doesn't want to let go, does it? Ay. Let's try this as a scheme. May not break. Maybe we can bend it. There we go. That's broke. Alright, so not normal. A little carburetor cleaner somehow. Doesn't look terrible actually, except for this big chunk missing out of it and the rest of the stuff. So the number 1 crank journal looks beautiful. No scratches, no nothing. Second journal, it's got a little bit of a heat mark there, but I don't think that's anything to worry about. Third journal looks beautiful. Fourth journal looks beautiful. Fifth journal looks beautiful. The only thing that's wrong with this crank is these little, where the piston smashed into it 150,000 times. But typically when a crank is crooked, it will not spin this nice. So the way to check it though is to put it in a block with this bearing and this bearing, and leave this bearing, this bearing, this bearing, this bearing out, and then check the journal runouts. Check the runout of this one, this one, this one, this one. And if they're all within, half thou, it's fine. So I'm not sure what the specs on this one. I'm just pulling thou to few thou out of my ass, but I've seen motors that were put together with like 10 thousandths of runout. Not recommended. Yeah. It won't wear in. But I've seen it done. It's like, yeah, well, fuck it. This is what we got. Let's throw it together. Yeah. If you're saying those words to yourself, you're lying to yourself. Okay, so next order of business is to get the engine stand in here or something so I can move these. Well, I gotta pull the flywheel off anyway. So I'll get the engine stand in here, pop this off the engine stand, or I'll get the cherry picker in here, sorry. Get this thing off the engine stand, get the flywheel removed, and then get it back on the engine stand in both holes. Now that it's lighter, we're gonna have to use these holes down here, which are very closely coupled, which I don't really like that idea, but I don't know what else I can do other than maybe I should just make a proper engine stand that comes and grabs along the motor mount things, because I'm gonna have to build this thing anyway, and it's gonna be pretty hard to put the crank and the main bearing cap on without a proper engine stand. So maybe that'll be another project. So people in my personal life note that my videos are all over the map as far as content, and I understand that, but this is what I'm working on. This is what it takes to build a Mustang and build a Bronco, and all the infrastructure that you need to do that. If you don't have your 10,000 foot shop with every tool possibly needed, You just don't have the capability or the resources to do it how you would do it if you were a professional. So this is what you have to do. You have to just get her done. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just getting her done. And sometimes I have to take a meandering stray down building a foundation for an RV and then putting a shed on it and dropping a dyno in and fixing the skid steer so I can move this lump from the front yard to the backyard, yada yada yada. So so I apologize if that doesn't fit into your interests and needs, but you don't have to watch all the videos. You can just watch the ones that you're interested in. Anyway, it's supposed to be educational, so that's my intent, is we all learn a little bit. I learn something, you learn something, everybody wins. Okay, so I changed my plans. I do that a lot. So I just stuck a 4x6. Didn't even have to cut it to length. I just kind of eyeballed the length, went out there, found something. So I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think I can just remove these, this and this, and it'll just be supported on that and that front thing. Won't be able to twist it, but that's okay. So I'll be able to get this girdle off of here and pop the crank out. We got a bunch of ancillaries around the outside. Probably about that size there. I guess these secondary main cap bolts. They're already broken loose, but that is interesting. Something weird going on there. I must investigate. So I cracked them all loose, and when I used the impact, it took a lot of torque to get it going, but it isn't a lot of torque. It's because this cap bolt has like a, see that? It's like a vacuum. I'm a little bit confused at what I'm seeing here, but it seems like it's difficult to pull out because there's a vacuum on it and thick ass oil in there. And I imagine there is a locating feature on there, but this has like a loose, kind of a loose piece on there. But that's a tiny little shank, so I can see why that was not tightened very tight. That's only, what, 6mm shank diameter or something like that, which is pretty small. So that explains the 20 foot-pounds, that is. I'll have to do some more investigating on assumptions about this block that can be reused. It looks like this crank can be reused. And all we have to do is get a new head, which are pretty cheap. Couple $300 for a new head, dressed, everything. So that's not a terrible waste of taxpayer money. I'm a taxpayer, it's my money. So it's taxpayer money. My story, sticking to it. 90. 95. Yeah, so these are appropriate tight. Another cool piece of engineering on this thing. Not sure if you can see it. But see how that's discolored? That's a steel insert in an aluminum cap where the bolt. So it spreads the load from the bolt torque. Got that mosquito. So it spreads the load from the compressive force on this bolt into this main bearing cap, instead of the way most people do it is just put a thick washer on the top of it. But this is arguably a much more elegant engineering solution. Probably the accountants would disagree, because obviously it's more expensive. But from a stress standpoint, this is, I believe, superior. Let's just double check there's no sneaky ones coming from the backside. Oh! There's this heat shield over here that's straddling the two parts, so let's get that out before we Alright, so anything else holding this together? There is a dowel pin here, which is pretty interesting. There's one on this side as well. Let me get you a closer look. So this appears to be a dowel pin, and there's another one on the opposite side. So I think that's what locates this to this, forward and back. I think. I don't know. We'll pop it apart and take a look at it, but I don't see any more bolts holding anything together. So there's probably some pry points on here. I have to science out. Not really a pry point. In between these two fins is ribs, I guess, not fins. Yeah, what that's good. Oh, it's too easy. Except for trying to get that rod cap off. Marvelous beauty. This rod. Oop, there's that little dowel pin I was talking about. Just hit the floor. Set this over here out of the way. Yeah, so looky there. It's just a little dowel pin here and here with what looks like a little piece of nylon seal of sorts. Not sure. Cute little guys. Put those there where I'll lose them later. Okay. So let's just take a little bit closer look. 4 minutes till I run out of memory. Journals all look gorgeous. That, yeah, it's a good looking crank. Yeah. Honestly, that's not going to hurt functionality a bit. So as long as this thing's straight and didn't get warped in any way, we're fine, I think. It all looks really tidy, except for that. We won't talk about that. I think that'll clean up though. Typical sleeve's like 1/8 of an inch thick, so there is some like discoloring. I wouldn't call it excessive, but there is definitely a little bit of discoloring on there. But I think that's fine. I got this seal broken. Alright. Pretty tidy little chains. Not much to them. For a complicated motor, complexity is not in the chain. So again, crank looks pretty good. And block. Bearings look all good. And you can see that cylinder is beat up, but if you're going to take 250 thousandths out of the diameter, I don't think that's a big deal. It's pretty much the biggest damage is right there, but it doesn't really do anything. So I don't know. I'll consult a expert in the field, which would be LA Sleeve. Ooh, it's most likely gonna do the sleeve work. This is the main bearing. They all look fine. A lot of that is debris from me grinding on it, so it doesn't look terrible though. Not sure how these are numbered, but these are from the front of the motor to the back of the motor. So as you can see, the very first one is bent. That's number 1. 2 looks fine. 3 looks fine. 4 looks fine. The rod bearings maybe not perfect. 6 looks fine. 7 and 8 are fine. And then there's the last 2. But this is the one that lost a piston. And the rod bearings look fine. Have to find the other piece. I think that one fell into the sump. But this rod bearing, this is the one that is collapsed. So if you try to slide it into the bore, it'll just fall out. So that one. So we have multiple failures on this motor, right? We have this bent rod, which is enough to ruin a motor, right? But then we got this bearing is ready to spin. Like, it didn't, but it was ready to. And then we have this piston missing. That, I believe, is collateral damage from the piston because that rod and everything's good, right? This bearing doesn't look fucked up. Right. So this is collateral, but it's hard to believe this one and this one and this one are related. And then the fourth malfunction we have on this motor is the passenger side head. It has this pretty terrible journal. which doesn't look as bad on the cap, which is what takes all the load. So maybe that's serviceable. But anyway, yesterday I was a little bit dejected when I saw that. But I think I'm just going to clean this thing up, pressure check it, and if everything looks good, we'll reuse that. We'll reuse the crank, and obviously we got to get a new head for the left side, but those are fairly inexpensive. Usually this guy is dead because of the whole rod bearing fiasco with all M cars, apparently. I got an idea. Let's take one of those cars with weak rod bearings and put 2 turbos on it. Okay, I got all these parts laid out in the sun here, so you can kind of have good light. So, number 1 rod bearing doesn't look terrible. 2, similar. Yeah, really all the rod bearings look kind of okay. I mean, main bearings. Now the rod bearings, however, getting a little thin. Cylinder 2, thin. Cylinder 3. Cylinder 4 is starting to get in the worrying zone, and cylinder 5 definitely a worry. And the rod is, yeah, very worrisome. Cylinder 6, the rod looks good. That's the rod bearing. There's 6. Piston has a little bit of wear on the skirt here, but if you flip it over, oh lordy, it's bad. That's enough to kill this motor. And then cylinder 7, no piston scuffy, but rod bearing completely foobar. 8 looks good. 9 looks good. 10 would look good except for collateral damage from 5. So, yeah. Not really sure what happened to this mess, but that piston's completely gone into piston McNuggets. But I don't think it was the rod bearings. I mean, these two, number 7 and number 5, were definitely ready to shit the bed, but they didn't spin. Right, this would be, see, this is still well and truly in. It would have spun, that wouldn't be in there. Same thing with this guy. So I think what happened, here's my theory. I think what happened is the intake valve dropped on cylinder 5, which caused the piston to smash into it repeatedly until it was pulverized into nothing. And that caused the collateral damage on 10 because they share a crank pin. And then subsequently somebody tried to start it up, and I think number 1, you can see how bent that rod is. Number 1 hydraulicked. Number 1 was the cylinder that was completely full of oil. All this side had a lot of oil in it, but this one was completely full. So I think that's how that rod got bent, because if that rod was really bent like that, this scuffing here would be huge if it ran more than just a couple of revolutions, which I have a feeling after this whole thing happened, somebody tried to restart it and did this damage. So this was going to die soon. This thing only has 47,000 miles on it, I think. So I think it was driven hard and put away wet, but those two were going to fail. But I think it ended up, that valve failure caused all of this, I think. Anyway, put something in the comments if you disagree with me, or you have another theory that makes more sense. And of course, like and subscribe. So, that one, I don't think it's great. This is the one that had the bent rod. Number 1, I believe. So that's not great. I think that was from hydraulic, my theory. Cylinder 2 looks really good. Cylinder 3 looks really good. Cylinder 4, pretty good. Cylinder 5, not so much. Kind of disastrous. I've seen worse. It looks like it has a hole there, but I can't see any light. I shine into the water jacket, so I think, and I don't think that's more than an 1/8 inch deep, so I think that might clean up during the boring process, but I don't know. It sure looks, I may have to, I mean, I tried to spray some carb cleaner through it and it didn't seem to go. Anyway, I'm maybe just being optimistic. So, cylinder 6, this is the one that had the scuffy piston. So that looks terrible. Not so much on that side. This is the thrust side here. Cylinder 7 looks beautiful. This is the one that had the ready to spin rod. 8 looks beautiful. 9 looks beautiful. 10 would look beautiful if it weren't for the neighbor sharing a wall, or at least a rod journal. And you can see some scars down there from errant bits flying around. So anyway, yeah, this one I don't think is a mystery. I think that rod got bent when it hydraulicked, but this one's kind of a mystery. The only thing I can think of, and again, this is pure speculation, is when that let go, this is the very next cylinder to fire. And so there was probably some really big torsionals happening. Whether that would cause a scuffed piston, I'm not really sure, but anyway, that's what we got.